What's up, guys? We're back at it again. Now, I am in a different location, but it is still a desk. You're going to see why in just a minute. But before I get into it, I just wanted to clarify a couple things that have come from questions I've gotten based on the first video. One, I am not like weeks away from turning 30. I realize I didn't give my age in the first video, but for some reason I just assumed that based on how many goals I was talking about, it was implied I had some time to work on them, but apparently that wasn't clear. So I have about 20 months left at this point. I'm just a few months past 28, so I've got about 20 months to get the stuff done. Plenty of time. Hopefully you're not just thinking, oh shoot, I didn't sign up for 20 months worth, but that's kind of the time frame we're looking at for this. The other thing I want to clarify is my posting schedule. For now, it's going to be one video a week, and I'm going to upload every Thursday. So if you're looking for those, this will be good to be on the same time frame, and just we each know I have to create one every week, and I expect you to watch it every week on Thursday. So with these goals I have, there are a lot of things I'm going to have to learn. There's going to be stuff I got to like internalize. And if you've seen my video called Is This Ruining Your Life Too?, you understand why that's kind of an issue for me. If not, I will link it up here. You can check that out. But it's just something I got to work on. And so I thought, you know what? There are like learning methods out there, like ways to learn things. I should kind of research those and figure out one. And so after studying several, I came across one that really spoke to me. And so that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to test it out on a subject I've never known what it was before. This thing is called the Feynman technique, named after Richard Feynman, who was nicknamed the Great Explainer. Really quickly, I'll describe what the Feynman technique is, how it works, and then we're going to put it to use in this video and see how I do. So the basic concept of the Feynman technique is to know something well, you need to be able to explain it to somebody else. So the steps, there are 4 steps to this. They are 1, sit down and study the topic, taking notes, like with a notepad. Just write stuff down and kind of learn the subject. 2 is to actually try and teach it and like try to talk through the concept. And it's important to note any subject that you struggle with, any topic within the larger subject that you kind of don't really get, and you mark that down. And so you go through the whole thing and mark down everything you struggle with. So at the end, you have a list of everything that you didn't really understand well enough. So 3 is to go back and really focus on those topics and get them down pat so you can explain the whole thing without stopping and a bunch of ums and hahs and other things that are typical of people who don't know things. 4 is to look over your explanation, just make it as simple as possible so that potentially even a child could understand. Those are the steps of the Feynman technique. That's what I'm going to put into practice right now using the theory of relativity. Because people who know me well know that me and science don't get along. So I figured a scientific topic would be a perfect thing to use for this because I don't have any sort of natural understanding. So what I'm going to do, now that I've described it, I'm going to actually practice this with the theory of relativity, one of Einstein's greatest things. I'm going to just study it, and then I'm going to try and explain it to the camera, and I'll make notes of the parts I struggle with, go back, and I'm going to end by trying to see if I can clearly explain in a simple way what the theory of relativity is to any of you guys that may not be scientists either. So let's get to it. Oh man, 30 minutes is up. I picked a topic that is way too broad. I bet my scientific friends laughed when I said that I was going to learn the theory of relativity in 30 minutes. It's pointless for me to even try to explain the theory in this first mode of like try to explain and identify the troubled parts because I am having to scale down what I'm going to explain. I have an idea of a very specific thing I want to do. I'm going to go back into my second round of study mode to kind of hone in on the one thing I want to talk about and kind of get that ship shape, and then I'll come back and explain the thing to you guys in beautifully simplified fashion. Okay, see you in a minute. So, the concept within the theory of relativity, since it was way too big for me to break down for this, is what's called gravitational time dilation. The basic concept is any object that has mass has a gravitational pull. And things in relation to that object that experience its gravitational pull are going to experience time differently based on how strong the gravity is affecting them. So, with Earth, we are on Earth's surface, so the gravitational pull is pretty darn strong. So we experience time as we experience it, the only way we've ever known how. The most immediate example, though, is the satellites, which we have put into orbit. They experience time faster than they do. Now, it's a very slight difference. How slight, you ask? Try 3 billionths of a second. Now, that may not seem like much to even pay attention to, but the point is, they experience time faster than we do because they're farther away from Earth's gravitational pull. Now we get to the cinema example, which is from the movie Interstellar. Now, some of you know immediately what scene I'm talking about. For those of you who haven't seen it, these scientists are exploring space to find planets that could potentially be inhabitable because Earth is dying and we must find a new home. So they come up on one, it's called Miller's Planet, just named after the scientist who's there, is really close to a black hole called Gargantua. Now, just a real quick refresher, black holes are basically just pure gravity. And their gravity is so strong that light can't even escape. And that is why they are black holes. There is an absence of light because it can't escape the gravitational pull. Nuts. This planet is really close to this black hole, which means that the gravitational time dilation is going to be very strong. How strong? Let's go to the movie.
It's time. The gravity on that planet will slow our clock compared to Earth's drastically.
Oh, how bad?
Well, every hour we spend on that planet will be 7 years back on Earth.
So they decide to send 3 of the scientists down to try and find the data, and one of them is going to stay in the ship. So the idea is they'll go down and be back in an hour. So 7 years will have passed. But of course they experience issues on the planet, and then when they get back, it's been over 3 hours, which equates to over 23 years, which leaves their friend looking really old and haggard and not even that excited to see them. But that is what time dilation is. The closer you are to the strong pull of gravity, the slower that you experience time.
Well, that's relativity, folks.
Let's get back to the Feynman technique. The point of this was to study Feynman technique and how it works. So I gotta say, I really enjoyed it. Mainly because it just gives me a clear objective. I'm just straight up taking notes, trying to explain it, figuring out the parts where I struggle, and working on those until I can explain the whole thing to the point that hopefully it's simple enough that I can teach it to somebody else. The one thing that I would say with my specific example that I learned is you need to understand the scope, at least, of what you're going to study before you use this technique, because using this technique for something as big as the theory of relativity would take a long time. But if you're breaking it down into smaller concepts like the gravitational time dilation, it works great. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to discuss this and remember these examples going into the future, whereas most stuff I would learn it and within an hour it's kind of hazy already. But the main takeaway is there are learning styles and there are learning methods, and you need to find learning methods that pair up with your learning style. But moving forward, I'm excited to have things like this in my quiver that I can use to help me kind of rein in my brain and try to learn things effectively in a way that I will remember. So, thanks for tuning in. This has been an interesting experiment. I'm probably going to go watch Interstellar now. As always, I'm going to see you next week. But until then, you better stay blessed.
She blinded me with science.